Hi, goalies, goalie parents, and goalie coaches. Welcome to the Goalie Podcast. My name is Brian DeCord. I'm Director of Goaltending for the Detroit Red Wings. I'm joined with John Corrado, former Northeastern University goaltending coach, Merrimack College, and a brief stint with the Boston College Eagles. And we're joined today by our special guest, Ron Petronella. And Ron's here because we're going to get a chance to talk about the Brandon Bussi phenomena that's going on right now. Ron, welcome to the show. So, Ron, why don't you take us through, because we've all had experiences with Bus at a different age, right? Why don't you take us through when you met him, kind of what he was like as a kid, and what was his youth hockey path? Was he a AAA superstar? Was he a late bloomer? Was he a prodigy? What are your memories of Brandon Bussi at a young age?
It's important for me to take you back further. His father and I were goalie partners in Junior B.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Brandon's father's name is Robert. So Robert was my goalie partner in Junior B on Long Island. When I went further into Junior A, Rob dropped off the hockey scene. I didn't see Rob until I went out to Superior Ice Rink for the Royals, where he was training some of the goaltenders and his son, Brandon. I went into the rink. Brandon and I, Robert and I caught up a little bit. And he said, I'd like you to start to come on the ice a little bit and watch my kid. Brandon was about 8 years old at the time. I remember he had long hair, glasses, a little bit awkward. And I watched him. He looked like he definitely could skate well from the beginning. First time I met him. And that was probably through his father. His father knew goaltenders needed their skating ability. So it wasn't until probably about 3 years later that Brandon's father, Rob, got away from hockey, and he started bringing Brandon to me. So Dad would bring him in the car, stay at every practice, and I'm getting a good close look at Brandon, just going into his puberty age, and definitely the skating ability was there, and always challenged the shooters, and he left everything on the ice from a young age. I know a lot of that came from his dad. His dad was pretty much a hardcore kind of guy, no nonsense. You're on the ice, you work your ass off, and you leave it all out there. So then we get to about age 14, 15. I think that was maybe one of the first years he comes up to you and stop it. I believe it was. And I'm training him during the next summer, and I noticed a big growth spurt. He was somewhere about eye-to-eye level with me, and now I'm looking up at him. 16-year-old, he's got to be going 6 foot, 6'1". His game starts to change because of his height advantage. And he starts seeming a lot more serious, and he comes up to you religiously every summer after that, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. I think from the time 15 on, he was with you every summer.
Right around then. Yeah. Was his first experience with you at GCG?
No, he was there a year before me.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Nope.
He was still a smaller kid. He might not have made much of an impression because, as we know, you always had some, pretty high prospects there, as I found out for the years that I was there and brought some of my goaltenders. And I think it wasn't until he got to about 17 where I think you guys started to take note of him. At 18, he's now playing in the U.S. In the NA with Texas, Amarillo. And they send him back out to Long Island, Danny Marshall, who you know probably, the coach of the NCDC team at PAL out on Long Island. So Danny says, "Can you start working with Brandon again?" I was like, "He's home?" Yeah, the North American had sent him back. He wasn't very happy about that because he believed not only did he belong in the North American League, but he belonged in the USHL. At the time, Muskegon was kind of entertaining the thought of bringing him out. So Danny Marshall was on the phone with them during this year, and Muskegon brings him out about halfway through the season, at which time I believe he breaks the Muskegon shutout record for goaltenders. He's now being looked at by St. Lawrence, Western Michigan, I think Northeastern, and I know Merrimack. He was vying to go to St. Lawrence, but Western Michigan was so keen on him, and they pretty much opened the door, say, "You come in as a freshman, it's yours." Being that he's already in Michigan, knows the area, knows the climate, feels very comfortable in Michigan, decides to go to Western Michigan, which was a great choice. Plays out at Western Michigan, takes them to, I think, the Sweet 16 one year. I know that they beat Northeastern with what's his name in net?
That sounds right. Primarily, was it Primo?
No, the kid's in Buffalo now.
Levi, Devin Levi, yeah.
Levi was in net. So at that point, I believe Dunham had some interest in him. Dak, you would probably know more than I do. But I do believe Dunham had interest. That's where the Boston Bruins came on board. I already knew through his dad that the Panthers were very interested. So that summer, he was balancing out, and he decides to sign with the Bruins. The rest of it, you know. 2 years in the American League and never gets called up, gets released last year. Florida does pick him up, plays 1 or 2 games in the preseason, and they decide to put him on 24-hour waiver, free agent. So now he's a free agent, and he no more becomes one, and the Carolina Hurricanes pick him up. Probably was the best thing that could have ever happened to him. They put him in a game right away, and he wins. They're not too happy with Freddie Anderson, so they start giving him a few more games, and next thing you know, he's starting to get a rhythm going, and that rhythm hasn't stopped. And it's been a fun story to watch.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So if we can go back a little bit and more back to his early years, and was there, was it the height? Was it like what? Because he got sent back. He got sent back home, which was his career path going the other way.
Yeah.
And it's always like, if you think about it as coaches and as goalie parents, we're always looking at like, what are the reasons why someone makes it? And trying to explore that. And there's Brendan Bussey, an undrafted free agent who, got hurt in college. He missed time in college. How does Brandon, so if you think about him, that year you said when you saw it starting to happen, okay? So obviously he had the height. But then what were his other attributes? What was he like? What made him different than the 50 other guys that were just as good as him at the time?
Couple things I'll never forget about Brandon. Always had fun on the ice, but he always emptied the tank. Always. And the character, and then he was working with was on the ice as a role model to a lot of my midget junior goaltenders, college goaltenders, and he became an example. And I think part of being an example, he took on the responsibility and wanted to always show well, So while being kind of a quasi coach for me, which he wasn't, he was training, but I used him as a coach in that training, helping the other kids. And I think believing not only am I performing because I want to get better, I want to set an example for these kids. I believe that was a big help for him, but
All right,
his
so
character.
just to be clear, the coaching of the kids, not just being a goalie and not just training, because Brandon talks about this, that he thinks that a major part of his ability to separate from the pack and make a jump was coaching young goalies.
I never heard him say that, but I think it would be just in the fact that when he worked with the younger goalies, he was out there to train. He wasn't out there to coach, and he knew that. But I would always take him aside and said, I want you to set the example for these kids and help out here and there. No problem doing that. So while he was training, they were watching him. As I would tell them, watch what he does. Watch how dedicated he is. Watch the little things that he does and try to emulate. And he always knew that not only was he was, on stage, so to speak, but he had to perform. And he would always take that little kid off to the side of the ice without me telling him and give the kid pointers, and the kids weren't all of them. So it all worked well for everybody.
Did you think at that time that he was going to play in the National Hockey League?
I can't say definitely because I've never had a kid get there, I thought of all the kids I've ever trained, and I've trained thousands, I've never seen an athlete, a goaltender like him. He was an enigma to me. And when he did get to Muskegon.
Okay, hold on. So when you say he was an enigma to you, what does that mean?
Well, first of all, the height was a huge advantage, and he used it to his benefit. Watching him in the net mechanically with that size, you can't train size. You know that. And he's got the size, and now he's got the mechanics. His skating was always as good as it gets. And I was just like, this is a complete mold. If any of my kids are ever going to get to the NHL, it's going to be him,
Interesting. John, did you feel the same way? Like when you first started working with Bus, did you say this guy's going to make it? Because when he legitimately started coming in the summers, it was going the wrong way for him. And then he got it going. He had kind of peaked, had a dip, and then got going again. Like, was there something about him that you thought was different that you said this guy's going to make it to the NHL?
It's funny. If you go back to his training, obviously we talked about he's tall. His mechanics were solid, but there was nothing that wowed me except for one thing. We had Stop at Goaltending at the end of our camps, and at the end of the day, we play a 10 to 15-minute game time, various games and everything. And you'd look at the end of a game, and he'd be the last goal in the net. He somehow figured out a way to win the game. And I just remember watching going, I didn't see him do anything spectacular, but he doesn't lose. And it's kind of translating to the NHL. Like, he'll make one or two great saves a game, but all of a sudden you look at the end of the game, you look at his stat line, he's made 30 saves. You're like, you made 30 saves? But he does, and he figures out a way to win. And that's the one thing I noticed about him was he was always there at the end and figured out a way to win a game.
So, like, I'm a pretty good judge of talent. I had Corey Schneider and Keith Longo, and Keith Longo and Corey were training partners at about, 14, 15, and they would always train together. And if you would ask me, hey, which one of these goalies was going to make $50 million playing goalie, I would have told you that would have been Keith Longo. I wouldn't have said Corey Schneider. And then if you look at, Corey and his path, what was different about Corey? He had the work ethic, like John, Ron, like a lot of our guys work their asses off. A lot of them work their butts off and they end up not getting anywhere close to pro hockey, let alone Division I hockey. So I think that like working your butt off is not really a differentiating factor because so many kids do it, right? I think when I look back at, let's say, Corey, you'd have to go, Corey was very, very smart and analytical, and he figured out the game. He figured out, what do I have to do? How do I have to play? Who do I have to be? When do I have to go to bed? What do I have to eat? Like, he figured out stuff, right? So that was something that was different about him. He was able to figure it out. Joey DeCourt went to Cushing Academy. I came home after the first practice and I told Daniela, I made a mistake. Joey should never have gone to Cushing. He's not good enough to play there. I made a mistake. It took him a couple months to figure it out. And then all of a sudden he started getting better. Okay. And, it was funny. I was texting back and forth a little bit with Paul Schoenfelder from the Hurricanes, the goalie coach. And he's like, just a great calm. And he said, he's so much fun to work with. And he said, and this really, he goes, he's a great human being, right? He's a great human being. And I think when you're a great human being, if you stick around long enough, you're going to get a chance. Someone's going to give you a chance if you're a great human being and you keep doing the right thing. So John, I'm sorry. So a little bit more in terms of how you saw Bus's evolution, right? So from, he starts doing summers with us. And what did you see? Did you see constant growth? Did you see all of a sudden one year it was, holy crap, who is this guy? Like, what did you see with him?
I gotta give a plug to current BU goalie coach and former Stop It, coach Cam Dumani. When he started working with Cam, all of a sudden a big kid became graceful on the ice. Like Cam's footwork, his ability to teach him how to skate, ability to get from spot to spot, and all of a sudden the game looked easier for him. And he had a flow to his game as opposed to being, I don't want to say choppy, but he didn't look as smooth. And
yes, he was. Ron, would that be fair to say he was static?
Yes. Yeah.
He was more rigid and static, and he grew to add some flow and some rhythm to his game. Would that be fair?
They definitely know now. Now, he trained with your son for a while, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, he trained with a lot of good goalies.
I know.
Brandon got a chance to be on the ice with a lot of good goalies.
Highly complimenting your son, and I think that may have helped in his development. Now getting the chance to work with these top-notch goaltenders and getting them to the higher levels. But yeah, choppy, definitely. In juniors, he figured out a way to make the save, but it wasn't always pretty. Matter of fact, some of the NHL games I've watched in the last few weeks, he's making some saves that aren't pretty, but he's making them,
Well, it's funny. He was training at our facility over the summer. I poked my head out to watch and watching him work with Cam on his footwork. He would work the same drill over and over to make sure his footwork was perfect. That again, he had a smoothness to it, a flow to it, and that's one of those times you look and go, "Well, that's a pro athlete." A lower level goaltender is going to do it 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 times, and they're done with it, or the effort level is going to go down. Bossy, every step, every drill, every movement, it was important to him. And you can see when he gets to the next level, how all of a sudden he's in the NHL, the game's smoother. The game's, I don't want to say easy, but he's got a natural flow to the game. He can read the game, his footwork. He's there before the pass. He beats the puck, I always say. He's not arriving as the pass is going on somebody's stick. He's there just a split second before it. And with his good size and his ability to read a play, that's a great combination to have.
So I'll throw this one out. A former Stop It Goaltending client, Scott Clemenson, who spent years with us. Scott was very similar, right? Scott was a big body, not the most graceful on the ice. Scott was a little rigid and all that kind of stuff. And he had great work ethic. Like, Brandon pays the price, not just doing the practice. It's all the off ice, all the extra stuff. He does that. So, that's I take that for granted. Like, that's just, I don't give it like big kudos anymore. Like, that's what the competition's so fierce. That's what you got to do. You don't have a choice, right? But, and I wonder, I'm really curious to get your response on this, Ron. So Scott Clemenson had the ability to play at Boston College. They were loaded, right? He had the ability to sit there for 12 minutes without a shot and then stop a 2-on-0. And I think there are very few goalies that can do that. It is so much easier when you get anywhere from 28 to 32 shots a game. That's your sweet spot. Like, that's where you want to be, right? Very few guys can get 16 shots and play well. And what I've noticed in this remarkable record-setting run is there's been so many games with a very low shot count, but monster saves. Not many chances, but big chances.
Ranger game last Thursday night. Perfect example. He's not seeing many pucks. His first or second shot is a breakaway. Stones him. I don't know who it was. And then, I think if he took 20 shots in that game, that was a lot. I don't know if he did. But third period, it's 2-0. He doesn't want to give up that shutout, but he doesn't want to give up anything. And in the last minute or two of play, he makes 2 remarkable stops. Okay. And I'm watching it going, he's making the big saves. He's in the game, and he's not getting a lot of rubber. As a former goaltender, I hated games like that.
Hey, terrible. Like, anybody that plays will tell. No one outside goalie world gets it. Like, they think, oh, we only gave up 18 shots, we should win. That's easy for the goalie. No, it's the worst freaking. Give up 12 shots in a game. It's a nightmare, right? So we go ahead, John. We understand this in goalie world.
Well, it's funny. I'm gonna make a comparison. It might be an unfair one to Brandon, but the goalie that comes to mind is Ken Dryden in the 70s. He just had that ability when Montreal was dominating down one end of the ice, and all of a sudden a 2-on-1 came out the other way. He made the save, and I was a Bruins fan. He did it all the time to the Bruins, and it was the most frustrating thing to watch. But as I developed as a goalie and a goalie coach, just like we were just talking about, you look and say, wow, that is a rare skill to have, to go 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes and not only make a save, but make a big timely save like that. And Bussy just seems to do that. He just comes up with a save when it's needed.
Okay, so then the question is why? Okay. Why would Brandon Bussy have this ability, which is very rare, to be able to stay mentally focused without seeing pucks, without seeing action, and then be able to make a big save? And so I'll begin with speculating that the undrafted, that things didn't go well in junior at one point, the appreciation of having the opportunity to be signed by the Boston Bruins, the years of performing at the highest level at the American Hockey League without one call up, maybe created the ability to stay focused and dialed regardless of the situation. Maybe I'm just speculating. Maybe that's a big part of it. Almost like when we talked earlier about the School of Hard Knocks, the interviews when these millionaires and billionaires get asked about if they came from money, and virtually every one of them came from nothing. Maybe the fact that maybe Ron, when he wasn't playing for the Gulls, maybe everybody wasn't telling him he's the best thing in the world and he's going to be an NHL superstar. Maybe that was the best thing mentally to develop that ability to grind through games mentally.
Knockbacks. That is pretty much the story of his playing career. And I believe that right now, getting that opportunity to play in the NHL, I think he looked at it very relaxed and saying, I'm here, nothing to lose. Let me just enjoy and play my game. And his relaxed nature, which he's a relaxed guy by nature, that with the fact that he's winning, he's got the opportunity, and the whole thing is working out. I think it's just kind of, we said to him the other night, his dad said, I'm living the dream. And Brandon's standing right there. He's just smiling. His dad's living the dream. It's a beautiful thing. But Brandon's very relaxed. Yeah.
As a dad,
right.
Dads will tell you, right? When your son says, when Joey says to me, Dad, I've played 150 games in the NHL, I'll say, I know, I played 150 games right along with you. Every shot, right along with you. Emotionally.
I told John earlier, at the Garden last week, his father is standing next to me during the warm-ups. And I look over at Rob, that's his dad. He's crying. Dak, I'm sure you can understand. So I give him a big hug. I go, I understand it. And he says, Ronnie, when he was 9 years old, I was bringing him here to watch Lundqvist. And now I'm looking at him on the ice. You can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's surreal sometimes. Like I remember Joey's first game against the Bruins. The same idea. And I went into Joey's room, which had been untouched since he was a kid. And he's got all the Bruins pictures up and the posters and the whole thing, right? And I just looked around the room before we went to the rink. Danielle and I did, and then I was okay. And I got to the game, and I was taking the escalator up to the Loge. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I started crying.
Yeah,
it was so emotional.
It's to put a cherry on top. After the game in the locker room, who marches in to congratulate him is Lundqvist.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just like,
wow.
Yeah. I died and went to heaven.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. And it's great when you see such a nice person, someone that's paid the price and taken the long road and done all that and enjoy all the success. And the funny thing, it's like anything, right? Like, it's been awesome and it's great, but it's goalie world. And in goalie world, you never stop having to prove it. So everything's going to be great. And then it's going to start the playoffs. It's a whole new slate again. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a whole, okay, awesome. Now Now let's see if he can do it in the playoffs. And that's goalie world. We never have to stop proving ourselves. I don't care who you are, how many years you've played in the league. You never have. You can never rest on your laurels. So, John, wrap this up for us.
I just think it's to see the evolution of a kid, that came like raw, had talent, and all of a sudden just to see him get a little bit better each time we saw him. Again, we saw the setbacks he had, but the ability to bounce back, and all of a sudden you look and go, wait a second, he's in the NHL, and it's just amazing to see. And it's a great feeling that you might have had a small part of that, his development along the way.
Yeah, we all did. We all played a part, played a role, and once again, just a small part, but it takes so many people, parents and friends and girlfriends, and everybody plays a role.
Cam was a big part of.
Yeah.
And I texted Cam about a week or two ago, and I thanked him. And he got back to me and he said, Ronnie, we all played a role. And it's true. We all did, and it's a great story.
Yeah, it's great. And we all, it's so funny, and we all know the guy that played the biggest role is Brandon Bussey. We all know that, right? We all do what we do, but at the end of the day, whether they make it or not, it's not us. It's them, right? It's them. We know that. But anyways, Ron, thank you so much for coming on with us, John. Thanks again. If you're new to the podcast, if you're new to Stop It Goaltending U, you can find Stop It Goaltending U on the Google App Store or the App Store and Google Play. And I believe it's a 7-day free trial. We put up 7 videos a week, every single day of the week. You can watch a video and grow your goalie IQ, grow your confidence, and become a better goalie. Thank you so much, guys. And let's keep on. Let's hope this bus keeps rolling along.
Absolutely.
Have a good one. Take care, Dak. Take care, Johnny.
Good to see you, Ronnie.